Hi, I'm Aaron Wilson. Here we're going to take a deep dive into the baseball program and the student life here at Oakland University. All right, guys, this is Aaron Wilson. I'm joined by the head baseball coach at Oakland University, Jordan Banfield. Jordan, thanks for having us out here.
Of course, man. Thanks for coming out.
We're just going to ask a few questions about the Oakland University program, about yourself. We'll get kicked off with, how did you get your coaching career started?
The hard way. I coached high school travel ball and just kind of worked my way up, man. Decided I wanted to get in and really wanted to try the college thing, and went and took a Division II volunteer job in Illinois, and just been working, my way up ever since. Finally got a chance to be a head coach and trying to do some good things.
And we'll jump into it. So Oakland University is right outside of Detroit, Michigan. Have a lot of great baseball in this area, but the program was not succeeding. In just a short 3-year window, you're entering your 3rd year, you guys turned the program around, had a big time season last year. I have it wrote down here. You had 31 total wins, 29 regular season wins. You were over 500, 18 conference wins, 2nd place in the Horizon League tournament runner-up. What can you attribute to that success?
I think just the people that we got here now. My staff, my players. We got people that do things right, and obviously, you got to have better players and better coaches, develop them better, train them better, all that. But at the end of the day, I think we got the right people that are bought into, taking the program new places. And our goal last year was to be the best team they've ever had here. And I think, on paper we were able to do that. Broke the wins record, highest finish ever in the league, and excited about where we're going.
So with becoming the best team in program history, how do you follow up with that?
This year's team's got to be better than last year's team. I think it gets harder to show tangible progress, right? Once you break down some of those initial barriers. So that's kind of what we have our first team meeting tomorrow. Be one of the discussions for the guys. Like, goal number 1, just be better than last year's team. Just if we keep getting a little bit better every year, we'll get where we want to go.
Absolutely. And you took home a prestigious honor where you were named Horizon Coach of the Year. Let's talk about what that award means to you.
Anytime you win an award, it makes you feel good. But at the end of the day, like, that award is because of my players and my staff and them doing what it takes to make us winners. I think that award, what does that award really mean? It means we overachieved external expectations more than, the other programs in the league. We got picked 6th to start the year, and, we finished 2nd and had a chance to win the league on the last day of the year. So
all you need is opportunity, give yourself a shot. So now, let's jump into the culture at Oakland University. I know personally you changed the culture a lot. Let's dive into hearing it from the head coach himself. What things did you change about the culture?
I think, I don't exactly know, how it was before, and that's kind of one of the things I said when I showed up is I don't really care. We're going to do things a certain way, a way that I believe is going to lead us to building a winning program. And the things that we talk about are just accountability, being able to tell the truth, hear the truth, and being sold out to do whatever it takes to make our program a winner. And I think, 2 years in, we got a lot of guys that are bought into that, and I think the results showed up on the field.
Absolutely. So a question a lot of parents, players have when they're entering the recruiting process, they hear so much off social media. They're getting information from sources who aren't involved in the process. You are right there in the process. When it comes to a position player, how do you go about your recruiting process? Do you go for mainly middle guys and then move them around? Do you go second baseman, recruit a catcher? how do you tackle the recruiting process?
Yeah, I think, generally from a position player standpoint, you take out catcher and first base, right? Those are really specialized, type spots, especially, the catching spot. But we recruit athletes, man. I like guys that are multidimensional, that can impact the game in a number of ways. Offense, with the glove, with their legs. And generally what that leads us to do is recruit a lot of shortstops and center fielders. And if you look at the infield we played last year, played a freshman at third base that was the freshman of the year in the league. He was a high school shortstop. Obviously played a shortstop at short, and our guy who played second started the year out at short for us, and probably our top player all around. So what we ended up with was 3 guys that at one point showed they could defend the toughest spot on the field, and I think it led us to being above average defensively at all those spots. So same thing in center, balls in play a lot more in college. Ball in the air has got to be turned into outs, and we put a premium on doing that. Try to have 3 center fielders out there. It's not to say that we won't ever play, a lesser runner in left field or something like that, but that's certainly the goal.
Absolutely. You touched on athletes. Can you give me your take on guys playing multiple sports in high school or before?
Yeah. Love it. I think it's easy to say and harder to back up. And I had one of our 2023 commits, had called me right before he committed and said, "Coach, what do you think about football?" I said, "I think you should play." He's a quarterback and 2 or 3 year starter quarterback. I think we have 2 of those actually coming in next year. I love it. Number one, just take our baseball out of it. I think that's an experience that you can never get back. You want to go play football, basketball, golf, whatever. I'm not going to be the guy that tells them they can't do it. Number 2, I think that, playing those other sports and being around different kids and being around different coaches, and it just builds toughness and competitiveness and all that. So I don't see any negatives. Obviously, you go train year round to play baseball, and I think that that's sort of a prevailing thought that's out there. And hey, if you're not a Division I guy, you better give up those other sports. Could there be something to be said for that? Sure. But I think hopefully we're recruiting the guy that's a for sure Division I guy, and they need to go do those things.
Now let's talk about pitchers. Pitching wins games. Often you hear pitchers, you can't go to a Division I school unless you're 90 plus. What is your take on recruiting pitchers?
Well, clearly our number 1 pitcher last year at the end of the year probably couldn't throw a fastball over 85, and he's right-handed. So yeah, velocity matters. All things being equal, I'd rather have a guy that throws harder than softer. And certainly you're not going to get where we want to go with a team of low to mid-80s righties. But when we talk about recruiting pitchers from a high school perspective, the things we're looking for are guys who have projectable bodies, guys who hopefully already throw enough strikes, and guys that can, unless they have just really, really a big-time changeup, guys that can spin a breaking ball. The things that, the more we learn about this are really hard to teach: throwing strikes and spinning a breaking ball. I think at one point it was, let's go get the guy that throws hard. We can teach him to break a ball. We can teach him to throw strikes. I think those are actually way harder to train than velocity. Right now we found out that velocity is not that hard to train. Now you got to have the right body and move the right way and all that kind of stuff. But I think if you look at especially the high school pitchers we recruit, it's going to be a heavy dose of left-handed guys. It's going to be a heavy dose of guys who can already pitch and throw strikes with some physical projection to come.
Absolutely, love that. Now, touching on development of players, quite often you hear you want a finished product. I don't agree with that. I'm sure you don't agree with that. Let's talk about the development piece here at Oakland U.
Yeah, I think development's a buzzword now, right, that gets thrown out, and every kid you call, right, what's important to you? Development. What do they usually mean by that? They usually mean training velocity and exit velocity, right? That's not development to me. Development is how do we make you the best player you can be. And yeah, would I like a finished product? Sure, I'd love a finished product, but we can't go get that all the time. Obviously with our transfer recruiting, we're gonna lean more that direction, trying to go get a guy that's proven and put up numbers. But with our high school kids, we gotta go take an athletic kid that maybe we can mold into being a super high-end guy.
Touching on the transfer kid, you had 10 guys in your program who were from community colleges, meaning they transferred in. Can you give us your take on the transfer portal?
Yeah, well, I think that's interesting because it's kind of 2 separate things now. You talked about the junior college side of it.
Right.
The portal, whole different story, right? Everybody's into the portal right now. That's the thing. Portal. Let's go get, what we generally try to do with the way we design our recruiting is we're going to go a different route than what everybody else is doing, right? Because if I'm just going to go try to recruit head up against, the Big Ten, I'm going to lose most of those battles, right? And that's where the proven guy in the portal tends to go, unless you have a background with the kid. So, I think the junior college thing, there's becoming some value there again, and that's, we're definitely tapping into that. It's not to say we don't recruit the portal, but generally, you guy went to a junior college to develop because he didn't have the kind of offers that he wanted out of high school, right? A portal kid has generally gone somewhere and it's not worked out, and whether, whatever reason that may be, there's a reason. I generally want guys that stick it out, that don't leave at adversity and are willing to work and, put themselves through the process at that place and work themselves into the position that they want to be. Now, sometimes it's not the kid's choice that he's in there, but I think that we just got to be really careful with this portal thing of, always going and trying to recruit on top of the guys that you already have.
Absolutely. Now, let's touch on being recruited. If I'm a high school athlete, what should I do to be seen by Coach Banfield and the Oakland University staff?
Yeah, I think number one, there's not one answer, right?
Yeah.
But the simplest answer is find a way to get in front of our staff in person, right? Yeah, video's great. I'm not going to tell you I've never signed a kid off video. My first year here, I recruited a ton of kids off video because we had to, because we couldn't go off campus. Well, what that leads you to do is miss more than you want, right? So when you can get a guy in person, see him up close and personal, and then talk to him, get to know him a little bit, I think that we're going to cut our miss rate down. So, I think there's this perception out there that going to a college's camps are a waste of money, right? That they're just money makers. Every camp I've had here, we've ended up signing a kid from. It guarantees that you get right in front of me and my staff in person. We get to talk to you, work with you, do all that. So, I'm not telling you need to go to every school in the country's camp, but if there's a few places that you really want to go, that you're really interested in, go to their camp. That $100 or $150 or whatever it is probably going to be a really good investment. Not just necessarily because it's going to result in you getting an offer from us or the school, but you'll get an answer, right? You come to my camp, I'm going to tell you, yes, no, maybe, here's what you need to do for us to be interested. And I think that's valuable.
Absolutely. Now, for me, I'm big on educating the parents, the players on the process of recruiting. At the Division I level, you have 11.7 scholarships. Can you touch on what that number means for you?
Well, that's the amount of athletic aid that we get to break up amongst our team, right? And you can go do the math, and it's 30% or whatever per guy, especially with rosters being increased to 40 at some places. But the way we look at scholarships is we go find the kids that we want, and then we try to find a way to make it affordable to them. At public schools, generally, there's not going to be a ton of academic aid. You're mostly going to be talking from a baseball perspective. How do we go get that guy? And can we get him for a price that we think makes sense? That's what it is. That's our pool of money. We're going to split it up in a way that gets us the guys that we want to get here.
Absolutely. Now let's go a day in the life of a college athlete playing for the Oakland University program. I mean, at most schools you're going to have some study hall. You're obviously going to go to class because you're a student athlete, and then baseball is going to be your job as well. Can you break that down for us?
Yeah.
What's the day in the life of a student athlete at Oakland U?
So like in the fall, and I guess really year-round, we don't do anything baseball related in the morning, ever. There's plenty of information out there that says no morning lifts. Okay. None. We lift at 4:30 in the afternoon, okay, after practice. I think there's plenty of information out there about how important sleep is, and if you lift at 5 a.m. or 6 a.m., how can you get 8 hours of sleep? Well, you got to go to bed at 9 p.m. That's just not realistic, right? So I know there's a multitude of reasons that some people do it, and I'm not going to say it doesn't work for them, but for us, I don't want to be there at 5 a.m., so I don't really, ask my players to be. The morning is dedicated to academics and whatever they need to be doing, outside of baseball, right? Most of our guys will be in class, something like, 9 till, 12 o'clock or so, 1 o'clock. We practice about 1:15. We'll go about 3 hours, and we lift 4:30 to 5:30. Throughout the week, they can get their study table hours in at any time, depending on how many they have assigned. And they just got to go in, swipe in, cross those off. And in the fall, our guys get the weekends off. We don't practice on Saturday or Sunday. It gives, it gives our staff, number one, a chance to go recruit. And it gives our guys, the fall's kind of hard, man. It's kind of a beat down. And it gives our guys a chance to recover and be a college guy a little bit. And it's still, we still get our 20 hours a weekend. So I think that's something that has worked out well for us, and I'll definitely stay with.
Now, staying on the topic of education, for high school athletes, How important is it to maintain a good GPA or a pretty high GPA?
I think a lot of coaches will stand up here and say, grades are the most important thing. In my opinion, that would be a lie, right? I'm a baseball coach. What's going to get you recruited or not recruited by me to start with is whether I think you can play here. That's just the truth. I look at academics more in terms of, is the guy taking care of business and getting what he's capable of getting? We don't have a GPA rule for every guy. Our rule is if you're a 3.8 student, you better get a 3.8. If you're a 2.8 student, you better get a 2.8. That's what you're capable of. You just show me a 2.8, not a 2.4. Obviously, there's a lot of situations where it comes into play financially and whatnot, especially with out-of-state guys. But more what I want to see is their GPA an indicator that they're not willing to do what they need to do? They're not going to be able to do what we ask them to do, not going to work at what we ask them to do. It's more of an indicator of character to me than actually their academic performance.
Now, to just educate the viewer, I know what the 20-hour rule is. However, can you touch on what the 20-hour rule is at the Division I level?
Yeah. So we're allowed, in the fall we have a 45-day window, and then most of the spring we get 20 hours a week with our players. That means 20 hours of lifting, baseball practice, meetings, all that kind of stuff. That all counts. Basically anything that's with us outside, that's baseball related counts towards the 20 hours. We get that many hours a week with our student athletes, and that's it. And in addition to that, they're required to have one day off. So that's a 20-hour rule. It's true in season, out of season. In season, it gets a little bit more blurry, I guess, because games only count as 3 hours, and they're out here more than 3 hours. But yeah, 20-hour rule is 20-hour rule, and especially in the fall, it's pretty cut and dry.
And then we'll touch on, I know you keep in touch with the players after you leave your program. You have a former player on coaching staff currently.
Two now.
Two players on coaching staff, former players. What does it mean for you to maintain that relationship with players as they graduate on through the program?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is, you don't build that relationship once they leave, right? What determines whether you have a relationship with your players once they leave is the relationship you had with them when they were here, right? And that's what we're starting to see here is we've got two guys on our coaching staff this year that were players for me the last 2 years, and I think we're just starting to see that our staff is a lot more in touch with the guys that are leaving, certainly this year than we were the first year, and certainly as we were before we got here. So I think it just means that we built a level of trust that those guys want to maintain a relationship with us, because at the end of the day it's really up to them, right? Like, of course we want to stay in touch with our former players. It's whether they want to put in the effort to stay in touch with us, and if we've given them the kind of experience that we say we will, and we've given them everything we have in terms of developing them as players and as people, and when they leave here, they see that, they're going to want to maintain that relationship. And I think we're starting to see that.
Absolutely. Well, I would like to thank you for your time. I hope that everyone enjoyed the dive into Oakland University Baseball program, and appreciate you having us.
Absolutely. Thanks, man.
Thank you.